Hi, everybody. Welcome to Halftime Live on Brew Sports. It is a Monday edition of the program. It is a moody Monday. I'm moody because Tanner Burke is still in Florida, and I'm back here in Wisconsin. I got a little bit of a tan, but I also had to put jeans on and a long shirt on today as well, too. I am not exactly happy today, unfortunately, to be back in the great state of Wisconsin. No, I am, of course, because I'm back here with you wonderful people. This is not a gag, as you can see. Tanner's not here. If when we cut wide here, look, Tanner just not there. He's gone. Like he never even existed. His chair is just swinging aimlessly in the wind like he's just gone. So he'll be back on Wednesday, so I'm excited, or Thursday rather, not Wednesday. He flies home on Wednesday. So he'll be back on Thursday. I'm excited to have him back on the program at that point. We can finally go back off the rails. We can finally get rowdy and rambunctious. So for the next couple of days, I'm going to have a whole slew of different correspondents and guest hosts coming through the program, which is going to be a lot of fun. A lot of great people to talk to, a lot of great things to get involved with. Of course, things are still the same, though. Same crazy business that always happens here on Halftime. If you got the comments, if you got the insight, you got anything like that you want to throw at me, come on at me, folks. I'm more than willing to talk about just about anything that's going on. Luis, of course, is very sad, though, as he says here on Facebook, that now that Tanner is gone, he's imagined that he's just a very sad person. If you've got a comment, you can find it right here on Facebook. Give us your comments on Facebook Live. We are on YouTube Live as well, and on Spreaker.com, broadcasting 3 different ways for you to check us out. Make sure you invite your friends, subscribe, do all that fun business, so that way everybody can be in the know with what's taking place. So we've got 3 great correspondents joining us today. I'm going to be joined a little bit later on in our second segment by Kyle Tate, one of our MLS and soccer insiders, to give us a quick recap of what's been taking place in the league. We're also going to be joined in our third segment by Matt Gachka, one of our NHL correspondents as well, too. So I'm excited to have those guys on coming up to get an insight into that. Matt was at the Pittsburgh Penguins skate around this morning, so he's got some great insight for us on what's been taking place inside the Penguins camp. Before we get to any of that, though, over the weekend, many of you know in the baseball world that Derek Jeter had his number retired for the New York Yankees after a long and illustrious 20-year career. And one of the gals that is just absolutely at the forefront of anything to do not only with baseball but also the New York Yankees is a personal friend of mine, but also one of our great baseball correspondents here on the Brew Sports Network. It's Tiffany Lynn. She joins us on the program now. Tiffany, a very good morning to you. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me on and talking about the Yankees especially.
Absolutely. I know that was usually a big draw. First and foremost to get you back on, of course, is to talk about the Yankees.
Yeah. Let's go back to Florida, though, huh?
Right, exactly.
Florida weather's so much better. Yeah, way better.
You and I don't do well in this Midwest weather, Tiffany. It just doesn't benefit anybody.
Well, nope, I like that sunshine.
Right, exactly. First and foremost, Tiffany, what did you think of the ceremony for Derek Jeter? I know a lot of people were excited about it, but as someone like yourself, obviously, that's covered the game for a long time, and occasionally lets her Yankee colors show every once in a while. How did you like the ceremony? Did you think it honored him properly? What were your takeaways from it?
It was perfect. And I guess I grew up watching Derek Jeter. So it was, as a fan, it was just absolutely phenomenal and sensational. We got to see Derek Jeter, our old Derek Jeter, back on the field. His speech was sentimental. It was from the heart. There are really no other words to describe. The lineup of people that showed up, it was the core 4. We had Mo, Andy, Jorge, Joe Torre. The list can go on and on and on. But, when he spoke to the fans and he thanked everybody, it was seeing the old vintage Jeter that we all grew up to love.
And I talked
especially
about...
my favorite part was the immortal voice of Bob Shepard. When they had that play announcing number 2, Derek Jeter, that just gave me goosebumps, and I could have cried because that is just one epic piece of history right there.
And you look at what Derek Jeter did for the game of baseball. I mean, 20 years with the same team in a world that we live in now where guys are trying to contract hop left and right as well, too. It's great to see that there are still those traditional players out there as well, too. But there's actually been some negativity around this as well, too, unfortunately. Some folks are saying the Yankees rushed this retirement ceremony. What say you about all of this? Do you feel like they just tried to hurry this up so they could finally retire the final single-digit number for the Yankees, or did you think that they properly timed this out, Tiffany?
This is perfect. This is timed just perfectly. They did not rush this. This all goes back to who Derek Jeter is. He's unique in so many ways. It's compared to any other player. You can't compare another player to him. His quality from day as a player and as an individual from day one that went through his entire career was maturity. That stands out the most. His ability to be a leader and a mentor for others starting the day he walked into that Yankee clubhouse is very rare to find. And to then come back, how many years later? In 2017, 3 years later? Since he's, 2014 when
You're asking the wrong guy.
Excuse me. Anyways, no, it was timed perfectly. He was the captain. He held the team together through ups and downs. It's rare for a player to come on as the new guy when he started and go all the way through his entire career as the same humble person. It was timed perfectly.
And somebody like you, Tiffany, that's been around the Yankees organization and around baseball for a long time, you've obviously seen a lot of Derek Jeter. Do you have a favorite Jeter moment that stands out to you? Was it the diving catch into the stands? Was it a memorable, base hit or a game-winning hit that he had? What's one of the most memorable things you think of when Derek Jeter comes to mind in his long, illustrious career?
Oh, the way he ended it in the Bronx. It was a tied 5-5 game. He sets up to bat and delivers that walk-off single. I mean, the stadium just was amazing, and it was a memorable moment. Only, of course, that would happen for Derek Jeter. It was a moment that nobody will ever forget.
It does kind of feel like that. It does kind of feel like that, doesn't it, at times? Like when you talk about players like Derek Jeter and just the magical impact that they've had in their career, like that's just how it would end for him with that walk-off.
Right. You can't write a better script. You can't make this stuff up, people. I mean, he came on as this perfect, humble person and ends in perfect. You know what I mean? It was magical.
It is. It absolutely is. And even all the interviews that I've seen with him, too, recently, I mean, still very humble to this point. He's one of those players that if he wanted to brag, if he wanted to just showboat and say, look at me and all the great things I've done, he really could. And I don't think a lot of people could argue against it. But it's the fact that he still remains humble in everything that he's done, I think, is what makes so many people it's hard to hate Derek Jeter.
I agree. And I think that's why yesterday at this, it was just when hearing him talk to the fans, talk to everybody when he gave the speech, it was the vintage. It was still Derek Jeter, very humble. You could see that there was tears, welling up in his eyes. Everybody was crying because he hasn't changed. He is who he is. What you see is what you get.
So speaking of, changing and not changing, the Yankees have changed just a little bit, of course, since Derek Jeter has retired. But the Yankees have had some success early on. But aside from the success that they've had, what do you say is the biggest obstacle that the Yankees have to overcome this season? Is it the lack of a true superstar? Is it the lack of pitching, as some people always go back and forth on? What do you feel like is the biggest thing standing between the Yankees' success this season and potentially going back to being irrelevant for just a small period of time?
Well, they're still in that rebuilding mode. This is a rebuilding year, and there's many obstacles that they have to compete against because of that, especially now with the amazing start that they've had, and now they went down into a slump, and the spotlight is on them. It's the New York Yankees. It's just going to come down to if the players can keep up with working together and finding what works for them to work as a team, because it's not just about one guy. It's about all 9 players on that field. And we've seen glimpses now of them working together and them finding their mix of what it takes as a team. If they can keep that momentum going, it's here in a couple of years, we're going to have a really hot, firing team.
And speaking of a player that's been at the forefront of that, Aaron Judge has certainly taken the baseball world by storm this year. Only a rookie, but many say he could probably be the starting linebacker for most every NFL team, honestly. He is a very large man and carries a very large stick when it comes to hitting the home runs, Tiffany. How have you been impressed by this young rookie so far and what he's done, just absolutely hammering balls left and right?
He's a big guy. He's a beast. There's a lot of power behind that swing. His current ability to play offense is definitely overshadowing what he can do defensively. He did have that great, a phenomenal play with the Blue Jays where he dived. He made the catch. I don't remember exactly when that was. Was that last week? Anyways, but as offense, he is definitely showing what he has at that. And one thing I have noticed about him in an interview recently, he said that he is only thinking in the moment, and that is very, very beneficial and has helped him improve. This is improving the discipline, swinging at more strikes, taking more balls, and recognizing the breaking pitches. If he can keep his mindset present, this will allow him to keep developing his ability as a player and individual. Just staying in the moment and just going with the flow. If he can keep that up, I think he's got it.
And rightfully so. I mean, the Yankees sit in first place right now in the AL East, 22-13 overall. So some success from Aaron Judge has certainly been a huge part of that. And it'll be exciting to see what this Yankees squad can do moving forward for the rest of the season. Tiffany, I want to thank you for stopping by today. I know you're a busy gal, but I'm glad we were able to get your insight for at least a little bit. And I'm looking forward to having you back on the program soon. Thank you very much.
Of course. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we'll talk to you soon. All right, there goes Tiffany Lynn here on Halftime today. Great to hear from her and all the great insight that's rolling along with the program. We are going to step into the wide world of Major League Soccer here in just a moment with one of our soccer insiders, Kyle Tate, so it'll be good to hear from him. Quick check-in on the comments right now as well, too. Jody wants to know, what happened to Tanner? I haven't tuned in a week. What did I miss? Jody, you haven't missed much. Tanner is still very much a part of what we've got going on here at Bruce Sports. However, he is in Florida right now. He is relaxing. He is trying to just take a little bit of time away from everything. So it's not you. Don't worry. Tanner will definitely be back. He'll be back on Thursday for those of you that are Tanner lovers. I completely understand the seek and the draw to want to get more Tanner on the program. But he'll be back on Thursday, so make sure to do that. Kurt in the comments section also says, so with Tanner gone, can we finally expect some intelligent content today? I certainly hope so. I only can do so much, Kurt, so I'm hopeful that I can stay a little bit more hashtag on the rails instead of hashtag off the rails today. So I'm going to be continuing to keep the program as informative but also engaging as possible. So make sure to keep the comments coming in the section below. Speaking of Tanner Burke, it looks like he just joined at least to view for a moment. Hi, Tanner, if you're watching. We miss you. We tried calling you the other day and you didn't answer us, so appreciate that. But we understand that. Anyway, moving along with the program, for those that are big soccer lovers, you know that Major League Soccer is already through 11 weeks of action. My New England Revolution over the weekend got a 4-0 victory over Real Salt Lake. Nothing seems to make sense in Major League Soccer right now. You have teams like the Revolution that can't get their act together. You have teams like NYCFC that have been playing exceptionally well. You've got teams like Portland who's done actually pretty well, but then they've had injuries. Atlanta United has also been another one of those teams that has kind of been back and forth recently. They certainly have been able to not only find themselves a little bit, but they have struggled at times as well too, to really kind of line up the pieces after a very hot start to the beginning of the season. So one of the people that knows a lot about that is one of our soccer insiders and correspondents. He also works down in Atlanta for the flagship of the Atlanta United, is Kyle Tate. He's a good friend of the program, and he joins us now here on Halftime. Kyle, a very good Monday to you, sir. How are things down in the great city of Atlanta?
Hey, Baxter. Things are great, buddy. Just thrilled to come away with a point and a tough place to play at Portland this past weekend.
Well, yeah, down in Atlanta, I'm sure it certainly is very intriguing. We're going to fix the sound issue on our end here, Kyle. We can't hear you for some reason, but producer David's going to work on it fast. But before we get to you for a quick reason there, Kyle, I do want to make a quick note to say that we did receive information this morning that Sebastian Giovinco is going to be out now for, it looks like, at least a couple of months. After sustaining an injury, he'll be out for 3 weeks, with a quad strain, so that's going to certainly play into the success of Toronto FC, who find themselves sitting at the top of the Eastern Conference standings right now. They got a good 3-2 victory over Minnesota over the weekend, so they continue to build their dominance moving forward. So some interesting information to see whether or not Giovinco, his injury will play a factor or not for the For the Reds, that is Toronto FC. They've got 25 points right now. They've only lost once all season long, 7-1-4. The next closest team is Columbus Crew SC, along with Orlando City SC. Both have 19 points. Both are 6-5-1 and 6-3-1 as well, too. I'm not sure if we have Kyle back or not. Kyle, are you there, sir?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Ooh, so I can see Kyle, but I can't hear Kyle for some odd reason. I'm not sure what the reason is. It might be on Spreaker, David. I don't know if you want to take a gander in there, but producer David working diligently to keep us on the right track here. So hopefully we can figure it out as we keep running around here. Anyway, remember, if you do have any comments about anything we've hit on the program today or on the show today, make sure to drop them in the section below. We're going to be joined a little bit later on with Matt Gashka a little bit later to help keep us posted on all things taking place in the hockey world. He was at the Penguins practice this morning. So hopefully he can give us some insight into that one. Oop! Now I can hear Kyle. I hear things moving and flipping around. So maybe something wasn't in the right hole or something from a microphone perspective. But I hear Kyle Tate now, so we must be on the right track. So, all right, Kyle. I think we're finally good. Third time's a charm. How are you today, Kyle?
I'm good. I don't know what was going on with my external microphone, but I went and got my earbuds and figured I'd just do a little bit of last-second engineering.
Perfect. We got it all figured out now, so life is good, Kyle. So talk to us about Atlanta United right now. They were hot and heavy to begin the season. Now they find themselves in 8th place in the Eastern Conference, looking at a record of 3-4-3. What happened? What's going on?
This is a team that's still kind of trying to find itself. And honestly, over the last couple of weeks, they're playing like you would expect an expansion side to play. The first couple of weeks of the season, they came out red hot. Everything was firing. I mean, Miguel Almiron looked fantastic as the playmaker in the middle, setting up plenty of opportunities for Joseph Martinez up top. And then that international break when Martinez got hurt for the Venezuelan national team is really when things turned around. He hasn't been back since. It's been 7 weeks now, and they originally said 4 to 6 with a quad injury. So Atlanta United has just been a patchwork quilt since then. They've been trying to put pieces in. It's been a jigsaw puzzle, and at times they've looked in sync, and at times they've looked out of sync. But, it's a promising result this past weekend at Portland. It's a very tough place to come away with 1 point. So to get a 1-1 draw yesterday was certainly a plus.
And they've played only 3 games at home this season, 1-2-0 here at Bobby Dodd Stadium. Do you think the fact that they've been on the road a majority of the season has played into their more of a slow second half of the first part of the season to them? Or do you think that the fact that they, even when they've been home, they've dropped 2 games as well, too? What can we really break this down to aside from the Joseph Martinez injury?
No doubt about it. The road issue is definitely a factor. It's not just that they've been on the road. They're not playing teams like Orlando and New York on a regular basis. They're zigzagging the country. They've already played Seattle on the road. They've already played Toronto on the road. They've already played Montreal and Salt Lake. I mean, they're basically drawing a Z across the United States every other weekend. And so it's been really hard for them. Plus, they don't really have a home because Bobby Dodd Stadium isn't their permanent ground. They're eventually going to be playing at Mercedes-Benz when that's done, the new home of the Falcons. But, yeah, it's hard to figure out your existence as a team. This is actually, aside from 2010 when Philly Union came into MLS, it's the fewest number of home games in the first 10 for a side. So, of course, they're going to have issues finding their identity.
Rightfully so. As we mentioned, the record is certainly 3-4-3 right now. Talking with Kyle Tate, one of our soccer insiders and analysts here on the Bruce Sports Network. Sticking in the Eastern Conference, Kyle, I mentioned it before you came on, the injury to Giovinco for 3 weeks. Toronto FC, they've been hot and heavy. They're at 25 points right now. They've only lost 1 game all season long, undefeated at home, and only have dropped 1 game on the road this season. Is Toronto FC, in your opinion, the team to beat in MLS or just in the Eastern Conference?
I think just in the Eastern Conference. I think there is a clear favorite, a clear best team in both conferences. Over in the West, I think FC Dallas is fantastic. But for Toronto to be doing what they're doing without Giovinco, because he's been off and on in terms of injury all season with a nagging heel injury, and now that's going to keep him out for a little while. Josie Altidore has done a great job picking up the slack, and Toronto just seems to have no shortage of depth up there. So the fact that they've won 6 straight, Baxter, that's unheard of in modern MLS. So they're playing tremendous football. And I think actually the last time they didn't come away with a win was against Atlanta United a couple of weeks ago at BMO Field that United happened to draw them. But that's a really, really good team that I think should have won MLS Cup last year. They were the dominant side in that final against Seattle, and it ended up going to penalties because Toronto just couldn't finish their chances.
Oh, you're telling me on that one. Everyone's going to remember the Stephen Fry hand of God there, basically pulling that ball out of the goal at the very last second. I'm going to put you on the spot here, Kyle. Looking at the teams not in the playoffs in the Eastern Conference right now, if you had to pick one, and it's okay if it's Atlanta, which one of those 5 teams do you think makes the playoffs?
Yeah, I think it's Atlanta. I think Joseph Martinez is going to be back in the next couple of weeks. And the fact that with all of the adversity that Atlanta has faced, and they're still towing the playoff line, they're just a couple of points south of it. I think that once he gets back and they get some of their depth back from some nagging injuries that have been going on, I think that Atlanta is probably going to end up sneaking in and being the 5th or 6th team in.
Yeah, and rightfully so. That would make a lot of sense to me. I mean, you look at the standings through and through. Chicago's in 6th place. The Red Bulls, who have just been kind of on a downward spiral, they've lost 6 games so far of the 12 that they've played. Very disappointing campaign for the Red Bulls so far. Looking over briefly in the Western Conference, Houston Dynamo, FC Dallas, and Sporting Kansas City all tied for quote-unquote first place, even though Houston technically has the first place spot officially in the standings. What have you made from the Western Conference this season? It's been all over the place, I'd like to think. You've got the traditional hardcore teams like the Galaxy and others struggling. Minnesota United has done, I think, a little better in the beginning than people thought they were going to after just getting obliterated their first couple of games. Has there been any storyline really sticking out to you at all from any of the Western Conference teams so far?
I think the most surprising is the reigning MLS Cup champ. What is going on in Seattle? Only 10 points in their first 10 games, and got blown out yesterday. It's just ugly. In terms of other teams, I think you're right. Minnesota United they're just, I think they're 2 points underneath the playoff line. So they have really, really turned things around, and it's good to see the fellow expansion side winning too, because it was really a tale of 2 expansion teams coming in this year. Atlanta United, everybody was talking about, and for Minnesota, it was a team that they were talking about negatively. It was a team that had no promise whatsoever. So, but I still think FC Dallas is the team to beat. And right now, through about a third of the season, it looks like Toronto and Dallas are going to be your 2 front runners for the MLS Cup Finals.
Yeah, and rightfully so. I mean, you look at the teams that are on top of the Western and Eastern Conference, as you mentioned, Houston, FC Dallas, and then you flip it over, it's Toronto and Columbus and Orlando. It's going to be a lot. It's going to be kind of back and forth between those 5 or 6 teams, I think, as we get down the stretch. But we've seen this happen before in all kinds of sports. Teams that don't usually have hot starts, they get the hot starts. Then the depth, the injuries, the travel, it all starts to pile on, and then people start to kind of crash down from there. And then you get to see the real, dominant teams start to finally rise up out of the ashes a little bit. So I'm not trying to jump on any bandwagons just quite yet when it comes to the Earthquakes or Vancouver or even the Chicago Fire right now, or even Orlando, because Orlando was not very good last season. And even Chicago, as many folks know, they were the worst in MLS last season. I get it, they've made some changes, but things start to happen. So we'll find out. And I think we'll know a lot in the next, I'd say, month and a half or so when it comes time to actually see, the All-Star break and all that fun business. So, Kyle, we got to let you run, but we appreciate you stopping by, sir. Where can people find you on social media to get the latest about all things Atlanta sports?
You can follow me on Twitter at @HereKyleTate.
Awesome, sir. Thank you so much for swinging by today. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Bax.
All right, there goes Kyle Tate, one of our soccer insiders here on the Brew Sports Network. Great to hear from him. Coming up, we're going to talk to Matt Gashka in just a little bit about the NHL Conference playoffs. He was at the Pittsburgh Penguins skate around this morning and has some insight for us about that organization and everything else taking place in the hockey playoffs. If you are still trying to get over everything that's been taking place in the sports world recently, we'd love to hear about it. Make sure to drop it in the comments section below. You can also find us broadcasting live here on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Spreaker.com. Numerous different places for you to get at us. It's great to see and hear from all of you. I'm going to be excited to have Tanner back, of course, on Thursday. We heard earlier in the program from one of our baseball insiders, Tiffany Lynn. She did a great job of kind of giving us that recap about Derek Jeter and everything going on. I don't have a lot of memories of Derek Jeter. I did want to comment on this with her earlier, but we didn't have a lot of time since we've got a minute before Matt joins us. It was great to hear her passion, her thought about everything. Derek Jeter is one of those players for me that I didn't follow baseball very closely growing up, but I always knew who Derek Jeter was. He was the reason. I mean, it's going to sound funny. We talk about backyard baseball on the show all the time, but I mean, he would be one of those first guys that I would draft when I would play backyard baseball, just because you knew that Derek Jeter was such a stand-up guy. And whatever he may or may not have done off the field with his relationships is completely irrelevant to, I think, the person that he actually is. He's a true role model. He certainly has always been able to step up and definitely deliver when it actually comes time to doing things like that. So a huge thanks to Derek Jeter for his entire career and everything else that's been going on as well, too. One other note I want to get to in the baseball world has to do with who else but Tim Tebow. Tim Tebow, if you haven't heard this has recently been reported by the Wall Street Journal and a couple other publications, is that Tim Tebow is actually looking at getting a promotion. When we mean promotion, we literally mean a promotion. He's going to be bumping up from 1A to potentially 2A. It's a little surprising. It's a little crazy. You didn't think it might actually happen. Some folks were very hesitant after he batted less than 200 to start the season. But the last 14 games, Tim Tebow's been batting a 306. He's been looking like a real baseball player. People don't know what to do with their hands right now because Tim Tebow is actually playing like a real baseball player. And because of that, the Mets organization has been talking and thinking that they are likely going to end up having to promote him to AA ball at some point. I'm not officially sure when that's going to be, what that's going to actually look like, but it looks like Tim Tebow potentially bopping up to the AA affiliate come time for the MLB All-Star Game is a very big possibility. Will it actually happen? I don't know. I really don't know, but I do think that if it does happen, it's only going to be nothing but good news through and through, honestly. So I completely support that. I am all for it, and I think that they should do that if that's the Mets organization. I still think he's going to find a way to get up for like a weekend series or something when it comes to Major League Baseball for the Mets. I don't know if they're actually going to do that, but I'm completely fine about that. Tiffany's yelling at me in the comment section saying, "Why didn't you let me talk about Tebow?" I wanted to, but I figured I usually get yelled at by people that actually know something about the baseball world when I bring up Tim Tebow, and they yell at me for that. So Tiffany, we'll have to get you back in that capacity soon to talk about it. But speaking of sports, speaking of people that know a lot about the sports world, we've got a great chance to speak with one of our baseball insider. We just heard from Tiffany Lynn. We just heard from Kyle Tate as well too. But now we get to hear from one of our NHL insiders, and unfortunately, I'm going to have to ask for a pronunciation on that one. But it is I'm going to probably butcher this, but it's Matt Gashka joining us here on Halftime. Matt, a very good day to you, sir. How are you today?
Hello, how are you? It's Geica, but you know what? That's pretty close as far as first-time pronouncers of the name go. Yeah,
there we go. I know when you put a J and a T and a K out close to each other, Matt. I guess sometimes it's hard to know where exactly it's going. But either way, Matt, I'm excited to have you here joining us briefly on Halftime. You had the opportunity this morning to check out the Penguins skate around. How's the vibe from the team this morning? How are things looking as the Penguins get ready to continue their quest for a Stanley Cup this season?
Well, despite their overtime loss in Game 1 of the East Final to Ottawa, the Penguins are still very confident that they did a lot of the things they wanted to do. The big deal when it comes to breaking down the Senators is getting through the neutral zone. They did that well on Saturday night. They just did not take the shots when they were available. They tried to be a little too fancy. They were maybe too ambitious with some of their passing, and as it turned out, they didn't get enough pucks to the net and couldn't create enough havoc there. They need to score some dirty goals, so to speak. That happens a lot around playoff time. But I think what happened was after the second round, such a tough matchup against Washington, number one, there was a bit of an emotional letdown in game number one against the Senators, a team with which the Penguins don't really have a rivalry. And number two, the Senators just back off. They're a very passive team compared to the Capitals and even the Blue Jackets in the first round. So there was an adjustment period there. I think by the time the third period got around, they were okay, and they managed to tie the game. But still, once you take it to overtime, just one bad bounce or one bad break can win it, and that's what happened for the Senators.
And you're looking at the four teams remaining right now, Nashville, Anaheim, Ottawa, and Pittsburgh. Looking at those four teams, in your opinion, Matt, which one is the weakest of the four remaining?
I think it's Ottawa. I hate to do that to the Senators, but they don't have the level of talent across their lineup like the Penguins do, like the Nashville Predators do, or like the Anaheim Ducks do. But they do have some guys who can hurt you. Bobby Ryan, who scored the winning goal in Game 1, is one of those. Erik Karlsson, their all-world defenseman. He's more like a midfielder if you're a soccer fan. He just controls the whole course of play when he's out there. So he's incredible to watch. But this team's gotten by because they play their system well. They've been opportunistic. And they've been lucky, too. When you're 6-1 in overtime, first of all, that's a lot of overtime games.
Yes.
In just 2 rounds plus 1. And second of all, 6-1 isn't sustainable. So they've had some good fortune. But you know what? All year long, they played some close games, so they're comfortable. in that way. Well, what's weird about this field is it's pretty wide open. The Blackhawks were eliminated early. The Capitals, the President's Trophy winning team, they're out at the hands of the Penguins. So I think it's a real opportunity for Pittsburgh, but I think on the other side of the bracket, the Ducks and the Predators could say the same thing.
Talking with Matt Geika here on Halftime. Matt, Sidney Crosby, of course, sustaining some head injuries in the last series. You've seen him. You got a chance to check out the skate around this morning, too. Have you noticed anything different about him? Does he seem to be back to his old self, or has the team been taking precautions recently?
No precautions. He's fully cleared to play. He's been cleared ever since Game 5 of the Capitals series. So that's now 4 games he has under his belt since the concussion protocol was completed. And Sidney Crosby is about as introspective of an athlete as I've encountered ever, so I don't think he's going to put himself into any danger. Remember, this is once a guy who sat out an entire playoff because of a concussion. So it's not like if he were still feeling symptoms that he would be out there. So I think we have to trust him in that way. But he's gotten banged around, and Game 1 wasn't his best game, and I think that went for most of the Penguins skilled players, if not all of them. However, Game 7 against the Capitals might have been his best all-around game of the postseason. So I don't want to read too much into that. Just some fluctuations, some ups and downs. Maybe the first 2 games when he came back from concussion, he was still trying to get his game back, get his rhythm back. I don't think it's anything more than that, though.
Flipping over to the other side, when it comes to the battle that has been the Anaheim Ducks and the Nashville Predators, Nashville, to an extent, had a fairly easy time getting through the first 2 rounds. Anaheim almost kind of echoed that as well, too. They got pushed to Game 7 against Edmonton. Then they come out, they lose the first game to Nashville, 3-2 in overtime. Then they come back and they drop 5 goals on Nashville. Pekka Rinne, unfortunately, not able to keep the puck out of the back of the net, it seemed like, all night long for the Predators. What have you decided about this series through the first 2 games? Is there a clear favorite after 2 games, or do we still need to wait another game or 2 to really get an idea of what to expect?
I don't know about clear favorite, but I'm liking the way Nashville's playing more than I like Anaheim. You alluded to Pekka Rinne. He's not going to have the save percentage that he's maintained over the first 2 rounds. It's basically the best stretch of his career over 10-plus games. So he's not that type of a goalie. Yes, he can be good. He can steal you a game here or there with his athleticism and that big frame. But he's going to let a few in. And he had a rough game last night. But the Predators were up 2-0 after winning the first game as well. I'm just a big fan of the way Nashville's going about their business. They control the puck. They have a great defense core. Led by P.K. Subban and Roman, possession dynamos, guys who can contribute at both ends of the ice. And it's an underrated forward core. Someone like James Neal, former Penguin, Victor Arvidsson, a young player who's come into his own. They have some talent, Philip Forsberg as well. So there are guys with a little bit of upside. Not the most impressive offensive assortment in the league active right now. I think the Ducks probably have them beat in terms of high end with Getzlaf and Perry. And some of the other lines they can roll out there, too. But if I had to pick a favorite in that series, even though it's tied 1-1, I think Nashville's looking pretty good. They'll have 3 of the next 4 in Nashville, which has been a nice home ice advantage for them in the playoffs. And all you want to do, really, especially in a series against a team that's of high caliber like the Ducks are, is just take 1 of 2 on the road to start. And that's what the Preds have done so far.
And just kind of going off of that as well, too, Matt, looking at the stat lines from this last game for Game 2, 8 different goals scored by 8 different players as well, too. It wasn't like 1 or 2 players were taking a majority of the goals for the evening. So that has to be encouraging for both sides moving forward, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, both of these teams don't have the one dominant line. I think the Ducks used to back in the day when they still had Bobby Ryan with them. But it's more of a committee situation. And if you want to succeed in the playoffs, really, Baxter, that's what you have to do. You can't lean on 1 or 2 lines, or especially not one line. Everyone's so good in the NHL these days. Every defenseman can skate. Yes, some are better than others. Some are more skilled than others. But there's no real weak spot on any team at this point of the playoffs, especially, that you can try to exploit. So you have to have depth scoring, and both Nashville and Anaheim have had that. And really, if you had to nitpick something for the Penguins, it's what they haven't had much recently. Connor Sheary has been a nice player for them over the course of the past 2 seasons. He's been non-existent in the playoffs. Phil Kessel was great on the third line for the Penguins last year. That was a big reason why they won. They had 3 legit scoring lines, and he hasn't been himself at even strength. Power play, yes, but even strength, the Penguins have been more of a 2-line team with Crosby and Malkin. So yeah, it's no secret that you do need that depth of scoring, and when you see that on the other side of the bracket, that indicates to me that both teams are doing what they want. Both teams are playing a good, solid team game, not necessarily loading up on one line or the other.
Well, phenomenal, Matt. We appreciate you taking the time today to swing by. Folks want to get inside your head a little bit more when it comes to the hockey world. Where's the best place to find you on social media?
Sure. Well, you can find me on Twitter. I'm right there, Matt Gajtka. Last name spelled Gajtka. And I'm also on Facebook, same name, Matt Gajtka Sports Media. That's where I post a lot of my stories from DKPittsburghSports.com. I also do a radio show on a local station called The River's Edge. So I post all the content there. Thanks for the time. I hope to join you again soon.
Sounds good, Matt. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon, sir.
Okay, have a good day. Bye.
You as well. Yep, there goes Matt Gajtka here this morning on halftime. I'm really glad he said his name there at the end, because otherwise I would have felt really bad. I totally took a swing at that at the beginning of the show and it was just completely off. But thankfully, he is a caring soul and was willing to to correct me a little bit. I'm going to be wrapping up the show here in just a minute. Producer David is here as well too, hanging out. Producer David, how are you, sir? Do you want to say hi to me real fast?
I'm doing all right.
You're doing all right? Doing good?
So.
Did you provide any Trivia Monday questions at all today? I wasn't sure if you brought anything with you or not.
I did bring trivia with me.
You did bring trivia with you. I mean, I'd be more than willing to answer a question or two here before we gotta run for the day.
Well, I could certainly provide you with a question or two.
Oh my goodness, I'd be grateful.
As I load it up.
I don't know if I have any punishments though. That's the only thing. I mean, with Tanner's not here, I don't want to punish myself. I'm not gonna like flick myself on the wrist or like pull up my own hair. Like that's just strange. Like who does that?
I could throw my Mountain Dew bottle at you.
You could. You certainly could. I mean, I could shotgun a bottle of beer, but nobody wants to see that.
Disc at you, too,
you could also do that. I feel like Tanner was somewhere in Florida would have a very nice time with that.
I feel like it'd be stealing his gimmick, though.
It would be. I would hate to. You don't want to be that guy. You don't want to steal another guy's bit. I feel like nobody likes that guy, right?
True.
That is very true. All right, what do you got for me for Trivia Monday?
All right. So what I got here is actually I think these are probably good trivia questions I was going to give you guys this week.
Oh, perfect. I'm excited.
The subject is music trivia you don't care about.
Music trivia you don't care about. Okay.
This will tell us a little bit about you first.
Oh gosh.
Your birthday.
Okay.
For anyone who doesn't know, January 20th.
Yes.
1992.
That is correct. How did you know that?
Just magic of the internet.
Anyway, that's irrelevant to the conversation. Okay, January 20th.
According to Playback.fm, what song was at the top of the charts when you were born?
Back in 1992?
Yes, January 20th, 1992. Was it A, Color Me Bad's All for Love? B, Michael Jackson's Black or White? C, Right Said Fred's I'm Too Sexy? Or D, Mr. Big's To Be With You?
I mean, it would be very ironic if I'm Too Sexy would have been the top one, but I don't think it was that one.
Maybe that's why I added the question.
I think Michael Jackson, because he was just a dominant force for such a long time. I'm going to have to go with Michael Jackson's Black and White.
Final answer?
Correct.
That is correct.
Yeah, all right. Michael Jackson, get after it. Whoop,
old enough that I actually still remember when that song was popular.
You can't be that old.
Well, we're going to find out.
Okay. When David was born back in AD 25.
Music trivia you don't care about, part 2. Producer David was born June 27th, 1984.
Oh, my goodness. You're that old.
I am. I remember,
you look good.
I remember when they invented music. According to Playback.fm, what song was at the top of the charts when I was born? Was it A, The Reflex by Duran Duran?
1984.
B, Heaven by Bryan Adams? C, Everybody Wants to Rule the World by Tears for Fears?
Oh, boy.
Or D, One More Night by Phil Collins?
One More Night by Phil. I mean, Phil Collins is a classic anyway. I see Tiffany and Kurt are chiming in, at least trying to say that they want to play. If you guys know what the answer is, back in 1984, Lord have mercy.
I think you can get a hint.
I can get a hint?
We have no competition for you. So.
That's true. I mean, Kurt on Facebook says everybody wants to rule the world. That's his guess. I don't know. Tiffany, if you're still watching, what is your guess on that one? I'm really bad at music trivia outside of, like, a year ago. No, I mean, obviously I got that. 1984. Can you read the question one more time, please?
I could. Producer David was born June 27th, 1984. According to same day as Ross Perot, by the way.
Really? Oh.
Fun fact. Actually, it's not that fun.
What a shame.
It is a fact, though.
It is true. It's a fact. Yeah.
1 out of 2 ain't bad. According to Playback.fm, what song was at the top of the charts when I was born? Was it A, The Reflex by Duran Duran, B, Heaven by Bryan Adams, C, Everybody Wants to Rule the World, or D, One More Night by Phil Collins?
Bryce votes D on Facebook. I'm going to see if Tiffany gives us her thought as well, too. Kurt says Everybody Wants to Rule the World. Bryce says D, so that's the Phil Collins song. I don't know. I'm trying to see if Tiffany wants to help break. She says A, so I've got 3 different answers, so I might as well choose B. No, I have no idea. 3 different answers from 3 different people born at 3 different times of the world. Good God. I mean, I haven't been wrong in a long time on trivia. I don't want to ruin my chances of music trivia. So this is a song that was the top of the charts back in 1984.
Yes.
I really have no idea, honestly. I'm going to go with whatever choice that was that my dad said. Everybody wanted to rule the world. He's never led me astray in my life, so why would he do that now?
It's a great point.
That is.
And Tears for Fears in town recently or soon, I believe.
I'm sure.
So I thought that might be a popular answer. That is also incorrect.
What? Dad!
That was just short of 1 year later. Everybody Wants to Rule the World.
Dad, you let me down. What was the real answer?
The correct answer was A, The Reflex.
Oh
by Duran
my
Duran.
gosh, I should have listened to Tiffany.
Fun fact.
Sorry, Tiffany. I'm sorry. I should have listened.
Fun fact, Duran Duran, neither a Duran nor a Duran.
Are they Duranta?
I don't know.
What is a Duran?
Not a clue.
Okay.
It's half of a band, I guess.
I guess so. Is that like Mahi Mahi, where you just want one of them?
Sure.
I have no
For
idea.
purposes of this conversation, yes.
Yes, perfect. Well, Tiffany won. Thankfully, she got that question right. We'll send her a Bruce Sports t-shirt. Thanks, Tiffany. You rock. We'll make sure to get that off to you soon so that way you can represent Bruce Sports to its fullest extent. All right. Well, we got to get out of here. Special thanks to everybody that stopped by. Special thanks to Kyle Tay, to Matt Geica. I think I got that right. Is that like Geico, but like Geica? I think that's what it is.
Something like that.
Something like that. Thanks to Matt Geica. Also, thanks to Tiffany Lynn as well, too, for stopping by to give us all the insight into the wide world of sports. You guys are the best. Thanks for swinging by the program today. We've got one more show coming up for you today at 5 p.m. Central Time for you baseball lovers that want to hear somebody intelligently speak about the sport. Not necessarily myself. I do enjoy baseball, but not as much as Barry Nelson and Ryan Thies do. They'll be here for Inside the Park, Bruce Sports' exclusive baseball show at 5 p.m. Central Time. They've got some good stuff coming up, some good guests, all that fun business tonight at 5 Central. If you missed any of the show today, you can get it on our website, brucesportsnet.com. Find us here on Facebook. Invite your friends to like it, and like it yourself if you haven't liked it yet. Just right here on Facebook, just Bruce Sports. Go subscribe to our YouTube channel, Bruce Sports, and follow us on Twitter at BruceSportsNet, on Twitter at Instagram as well, at BruceSportsNet. I am at Baxter Colburn. If you'd like to follow myself, I'd be more than happy to tweet back at you and answer any questions you might have as well, too. You guys are the best. Thanks for swinging by today. For producer David, I'm Baxter Colburn. We'll see you guys tomorrow at 11 a.m. Central Time live right here for halftime on Bruce Sports. Enjoy the rest of your day, everybody.